Hey everyone, Kara with the Barn Church and Ministries, bringing you this week's episode of Reload on excellence versus perfection. So Colossians 3:22-23 says, "Let every employee listen well and follow the instructions of their employer, not just when their employers are watching and not in pretense, but faithful in all things. For we are to live our lives with pure hearts in the constant awe and wonder of our Lord God. Put your heart and soul into every activity you do as though you are doing it for the Lord himself and not merely for others." Perfectionism comes from a place of fear. Excellence comes from a place of just wanting to do your best, whatever that is. I always tell my kids, I don't care if you get all A's as long as it's your best. And if you're trying really hard by studying, doing your homework, going that extra mile, and you're getting a C in math or whatever, I'm fine with that because you're doing your very best. If you're getting a C because you're not doing what the teacher asked and you're not doing your homework, then I'm not okay with that because that isn't excellence. So we're not seeking perfection, we're seeking excellence, and there is a difference, a huge difference. The trouble is, it's easy to confuse them, and we end up holding ourselves and others to higher standards than are necessary. And that is not life-giving, it is life-ending, right? Remember, the only man in the history of mankind that was perfect was Jesus himself. He lived a perfect life, never sinned, never lied, never did anything wrong. None of us are as good as him, and that's okay. That's why he died. You can tell if someone struggles with perfectionism if they get fixated on goals or disassociate themselves from people around them, or have a hard time admitting failure or being transparent. That's probably caused by some wound or something from childhood that's just not been healed yet. Perfectionism, according to the dictionary, is a disposition to regard anything short of perfection as unacceptable. But we're never going to be perfect, and things around us will never be perfect. There'll be a typo, or there'll be a color that should have been better, whatever it happens to be. So God never calls us worthless. We shouldn't get our worth from what we do. We should get our worth from him, right? And people with perfectionism tend to get their worth from what they do. So God will never call us worthless. And if you feel worthless and feel like you don't have value after a failure, after you've done something wrong and you've tried your best, then you are struggling with a perfectionist mindset, and it is time to break free of that bondage, because that is bondage. That is slavery. Other signs you might be a perfectionist are finding identity from your efforts. Number 2, overreacting even to positive criticism. Number 3, depression or burning out after a failure. Number 4, difficulty relinquishing control to another person. Or number 5, continuous thoughts on what you have done wrong and not what you've done right. Excellence, on the other hand, means eminently good or a valuable quality, also according to Webster's. People who have an excellent provoked mindset understand that their worth and value come from their creator alone, not what they do. And so they do their best and they move on from their failures. They don't dwell on them. They don't think on them. They move on from them. They don't allow it to roll around in their head over and over and over again. They believe what Paul said in Philippians 3:13. He said, "I don't depend on my own strength to accomplish this. However, I do have one compelling focus. I forget all of the past and I fasten my heart to the future instead." The first part of Proverbs 24 says, "For the lovers of God may suffer adversity and stumble 7 times, but they will continue to rise over and over again." It says we're going to stumble. It says we're going to fall, but we can't stay there. So people with a perfectionist mindset sometimes stay there after a failure because they're so beat up on themselves. A person with an excellence in their heart and their mindset is grateful and fulfilled with what they currently have, and they're not always striving to keep up with everybody else. They know, hey, they tried their best, and they move on from their failures onto the next thing, right? A person with excellence is not afraid to empower other people as the Lord leads, even if they aren't quite as good at them as in the beginning. Craig Rochelle does Leadership podcast, and one of his things was, I challenge you to find people that do something 50% as good of you and empower them to do it. And it's so good. And we try to keep that in mind here because they don't have to be exactly like us. In time, people can learn to do as good a job or better than you, because what we want is for people to do better than us, right? Right. The people that we raise up and send off, we want them to do better than we did. So how do you break the bondage of perfectionism and have an excellent mindset? Number 1, stop comparing yourself to others and what they have. Period. Be done with it. Stop comparing yourself. That is the enemy putting those thoughts in your head. Stop. Number 2, stop allowing thoughts of past failure to dominate. Cast them out. Don't mull them over anymore. Don't keep thinking about them. Be done with them. If you've repented and you've moved on, God has already moved on. So allowing that in there is just the enemy's plan. Number 3, ask the Lord to heal your heart from past hurts when you were made to not feel like you were good enough. This is a really big deal because that's where a lot of that perfectionism mindset comes in. It's those past hurts, maybe from parents or children you grew up with or siblings or whatever. So ask him to reveal those wounds to you and ask him to heal them, and he really, really will. It may take time. There might be more than one, but it's so worth it. Number 4, focus on one thing at a time and just do your best at that. Don't worry about the gazillion other things you have to do, because all of us have a gazillion other things to do. Just focus on the one thing you have in front of you right now and do your best at that. Number 5, last one, you're always going to have a to-do list, so get over it and stop being so hard on yourself. When I came to peace with that, because I used to get mad at myself, oh my gosh, I didn't get enough done on my list today. Okay, you're always going to have a list. That's actually good. You'll always have something to do. So that means you always have purpose to your day. You always have intention to your day. It's okay to not get everything done on your to-do list, because there is another day. Tomorrow we're going to breathe again. We're going to wake up again, and we're going to have more things to do. So don't beat yourself up when you don't get as much done as maybe you thought you might. Lastly, remember, God calls you his, right? He calls you royalty, and he doesn't make anything that's not already excellent. So you are excellent. You have excellence in your heart. We want to cast out perfectionism. We want to do our very best every single day, one thing at a time. That's all we can do. And we're praying for the nation and country as we go through this COVID-19 pandemic and crisis. Please let us know if you have prayer requests or need anything. We're going to keep sending out reloads, because I even know at a time like this, that perfectionism that can creep in there, and we just want to cast that out and just do our very best every day for our God, our family, and ourselves. And so we will see you next week on Reload. Find us on social media at The Barn Ministries, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, or our website at thebarn.church. Have a great day.